he was,
coaching,
I was
and he was
coaching football.
teaching.
He was
Okay.
teaching, and he was coaching track, so I got to know him. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh, I didn't know he coached track. I just knew he taught at Lincoln.
So, did you actually coach football at
Yeah,
USF?
yeah, 1 year. Al Moldy was the head coach. He had been a grad assistant at, he was the linebacker grad assistant at South Dakota State when I was
So
playing.
then, when did Roger Thomas come in?
Then the coach-
He came after Gary Hoffman.
then he moved down here, I think it was in the fourth grade.
So it'd been probably 4 or 5 years maybe later?
Gary didn't last too long.
No.
Al left. We'd had a good season. He got a job at Minnesota Morris, and he left. And I had a chance to go to Washington High, full-time job. Yeah, not that it paid a lot, but it only was coaching football and girls track, so I helped with basketball with Dutch Erickson for 4 more
Oh, yeah,
years.
good old Dutch.
Good old Dutch.
There a long time.
Ready? All right, I think it's 5:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Clark. Here. David.
Here.
Fish. Here. Jorgensen.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Parliament.
Yep.
Mayor Heinitz.
Yes. Look for approval of the agenda. Have a motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Very small public crowd, so. Raleigh, you got any comments? Good. Well, I think the first item and the one we are most concerned about tonight is the budget. And again, I'd just like to make a couple comments. You know, I know we were all pretty frustrated, and I understand that. And I think we battled through a lot of different things. And I think getting back to what we started with is important. We had a balanced budget presented by people I trust a great deal. And I believe it was important to talk through the things that we talked through, but I really believe that it's a budget that is a good budget for the city. It's a fair budget, and you know, I just think continuing to try and put little things in here or there, which we'd all like to have, I get it, but at this point in time, it doesn't appear that that's possible. So I would really look for someone to make a motion to approve this budget and get this done.
I'd move to approve first reading of ordinance number 639.
Is that our budget?
That is our budget.
You're confusing me.
2022 budget, yes,
Okay, just as is?
as is.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of the ordinance 2022 budget. That would be ordinance number 639. Questions, comments?
So if we have amendments to propose, we have to wait until this is through, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, we'll have to vote on this. My understanding, we'd have to vote on this first.
No, typically what you do is.
Talk
you
through.
have a motion to approve whatever, and if there's any proposed amendments to it, you vote on the amendments.
Okay,
And then, after all is said and done, then you have a motion. The motion goes back to
the original.
the original plus anything that's been amended.
Okay,
So just for clarification, we're back with this to square one,
yes.
what we had before.
The only amendment that passed, my understanding the other night, was the health care. Did that not pass?
Yeah.
Correct.
And that was, so that would be in this. What you proposed did
Okay.
pass, so that would be in here, Dave.
Okay.
But the staffing changes or not?
None of the staffing changes passed, no.
Okay.
Unless it was in place beforehand, like Raleigh's,
Yes.
Christina's full-time person, like all that
Yeah.
in place.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, one full-time position, yeah.
Well, half position.
So I'm going to revisit our engineer because we have given help to everybody that's requested it except for her. So I will throw it out there again for us to amend it, earmarking $40,000 for an assistant for her.
So I will second that for discussion purposes.
Brian, I have a question for you. When we do projects in the city of Brandon, do we pay engineering firms to be project managers?
Typically, we do.
We
For
do.
instance, the water tower project, we've contracted with Stockwell to do contract administration. DGR is doing the Rushmore, HDR did the core, or is doing the core. Whoever does the design
Do-
is the CA.
Do we have any idea how much money we spend for project management from engineering firms that help the city?
Not off the top of my head.
I would assume it's more than $40,000.
Yeah, it's usually, rule of thumb, somewhere 5-6% of the project cost.
So our engineering department does get help from engineering firms that we pay for.
For projects, yes.
Yes.
We contract the CA out.
Do we have any contracts, independent consulting firms that do our finance work for us?
No,
No. So we don't have any help in the finance department.
not outside, no.
Okay.
There we go. I understand that we do get, on projects, right? Probably not all, but some of them. But as we saw the other night, even if we do have that hired contract help, maybe we need to rethink that because they're not taking the fall for anything. The city, the engineer got thrown under the bus for the whole water tower thing. The city staff, that's how I took it, and so maybe we have to look at that because they still come back and want to blame the city and the engineer if things aren't being done. So I don't know why we're paying for all these contracts. I still feel like the number one thing I hear is usually, well, I want to talk to somebody with the city. And even though we're paying these contractors, are they really doing their job? Are we holding them accountable? Because I never hear, why aren't their feet to the fire, so to speak? Why is it always thrown at our city? And so, that's where I just struggle is why, if we spend a lot of money on that, but yet it looks bad on not only our city engineer, but our staff, and if we're not supposed to have anything to do with it. But yet I know they're always out there overseeing everything to make sure it gets done too.
I think, Vicki, that particular incident was a little circumstantial. And I'm not, Tammy certainly, hopefully enjoyed her trip and certainly had the right to do it. Did it cause some, some issues? Probably, but I will tell you that the other major project that we had going this summer was the Rushmore project, and those people that live on that street were extremely pleased with how that was managed. Were there frustrations from time to time? Absolutely. You're never going to get by in construction without some kind of stuff happening. It's the name of the game, and there's always going to be an inconvenience. I don't care if you're building a house at home or you're building a street or you're building a water tower, there's going to be stuff that happens and it's never going to be flawless. And I think the management, I think Tim makes a great point. If we're paying for management, maybe we do need to hold them to the fire a little bit more. And I don't know how it went today with them, Tammy, but hopefully we'll get some reaction from them and get a better situation. But I don't think you can look at one incident and say paying for management isn't working.
Just one thing, you said 40,000, Dana, that is not enough. If they take single coverage, it'd be actually a little over $57,000. If they took family coverage, it'd be about $72,000.
I'm just saying earmark the payroll like we do with other positions.
Any other discussion on the proposal?
Well, I guess I'd like to address the engineering staff too, because like's been said here, we've helped out all the other departments, Public Works, police, administration. We're adding an additional half-time employee with the current budget as proposed. And I think giving some help, we basically eliminated the intern position, and I'd like to see a little more help over on the engineering side. I think a lot of these projects, the bigger projects, no, I don't think anyone expects our city engineer to ramrod those projects, but surely some of the smaller ones, for instance, just the Aspen Park road, or maybe even just paving the 4th Street. Some of those are pretty simple projects. The golf course renovation, that was a little bit more intensive, But with additional help, the right person, I think that could have been possibly, I'm saying, possibly managed internally. So I really think that we can use the help there, and whoever that person is should be able to save us, the city, some money in some of these contracts that we have to deal with the engineering firms.
I have to disagree. Those larger projects, including the golf course, was designed by an outside engineer. For liability reasons, you don't want somebody who's doing CA on it that wasn't involved with the design. You don't want two separate engineers working on the same project. You want whoever designs it should do the CA on it.
Well, that's not what I said, but I'm saying on some of the smaller projects. And that one, the golf course renovation was done this summer. No, I don't think that internally.
No, that's the
that
one
we
you
could have
referenced, and that was designed by Clark.
Pardon me?
That was designed by an outside engineer.
Right.
So you mentioned that as one that could have been done internally, and I'm saying, no, it couldn't.
No, not that one. No, I'm thinking possibly the retaining wall. It's not that big of a project, but I don't know.
We will
We'll see.
not do CA on that retaining wall. There's way too much liability. There's way too much structural engineering that needs to be done on that retaining wall. My recommendation on that is not to do that internally. That's why we're in the boat that we're in, because it was done internally and it wasn't done correctly.
Okay, the way I kind of look at this is we do have a process that's put in place by city staff, by our city administrator. And that process is to fill out a form, to flesh it out, to build a job requirements, and then present that. That's what we have always done. I think that's a good process and it's a good program. If we go to this, establish some sort of precedent that we can bypass the city administrator, then you can have the police chief come to me or Dan and say, you know, I really want 3 more officers, but I don't want to go through Brian. Having a conversation between a person that works within the chain of command of this guy over here that's been hired to do this job, having conversations back and forth between themselves and anybody on the council is weakening that process and weakening that chain of command. The staff works under the direction of the city administrator. That's the way it is put together. We are up here to give advice and consent. I would be more than willing to revisit this next year, following the process that's been established that has worked well for the city, and I'd like to stay with that process. I don't want to see a precedent set that all of a sudden we can have people from our other staff coming to us saying, well, I want this and I want that. And that's why we pay him the big dollars. That's why we're a part-time council, to listen to the advice. And he's got a process. I think we owe him that respect to stay with that process and stay with that chain of command. If I can call it chain of command, that's what we use in the police department, so.
I think that's very well said, Dave, and I honestly feel very strongly that we're not in the day-to-day fray of what they need, and that we should be taking the recommendations of the leadership. And I totally agree with Dave that I almost feel like we're circumventing the leadership by us telling him what they need when we don't see it day to day. And they see it day to day. They've had this, to Dave's point, this process to what they need, and I really believe very strongly that, that we're treading on tough ground here, folks. We're treading on real tough ground down the road, and I think it's a big mistake when a group does that, and that's the way I feel we're doing, so.
I just want to disagree with the process being a roundabout, because Tammy has talked to all of us during a budget session. Tammy had previously stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, that administration knew that you wanted help. There wasn't the awareness that a specific form needed to be filled out at budget time. Apparently, that is a case, but that's, to me, a technicality that doesn't warrant us turning away help.
Okay, then I would come back to the city administrator and say, do you want another person in engineering? Do you want this process to go what way?
Well, I one, problem is, as far as needs go, it doesn't meet the needs of the other staff. Now, all of the forms were handed out to all of the department heads, including the request for new staff. They were all handed out. Every department head had the opportunity to submit those requests. That was not done. Now, you may think of it as a technicality. I have a question. If I came to Clark Insurance and said, I want insurance policy on my house, would I get it if I didn't fill out any forms or sign any forms?
Very much apples to oranges.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's not. It's very much the same. I'm requesting something. It's a rule of whatever insurance company to fill out that form, correct?
I'll call the question.
Yeah, at this point, that's probably where we're at, and, you know, all of this is new to me, and I gotta be honest with you, that this is not the way it's done in the business world. It's not. Your supervisors come to you with what they need. My job as a CEO was to decide whether we had the finances to do it, and or it was basically, if it did and it worked, fine. But I honestly believe you're really treading on very, very tenuous grounds here, and I just want to caution you that these are things that do not help the morale of your staff, nor do they build the type of team attitude that I certainly would like to see within the ranks of our people. To me, one of the worst things you can do is to mess with the chemistry of a team. And that's what you're doing here. You're messing with the chemistry of this team. And I think it's tenuous ground. So the question's been called.
I just have a quick question. Sorry, I have a quick question. This is where I struggle with, is that I respect the chain of command. Like Dave, I agree with what you said. But at the same time, it's also hard when we're also trying to do what we think is best for the constituents and the taxpayers in this community. And when I feel like I always have people ask about projects in town and this and that, and then if Tammy says she needs help, and then it's like I can respect Brian and I understand that, but at the same time, I struggle too with trying to do what's best for the community. And if there is a need, and if they're telling me they can't get a hold, and she's at a job site and she's working, and I don't know. That's where I struggle with.
Okay, the question's been called, so at this point, a roll call vote on adding a position in the engineering department.
Clark?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Jorgensen?
Nay.
Cole?
Nay.
Parliament?
Aye.
4-2, motion carries. Have to insert that into the budget.
So Mayor, I would call the question as, I will add almost $72,000 in the budget. Where would you like to deduct that from an expenditure?
We freed up
Already
a,
got it, so.
there was some in contingency, I believe, and we freed up a little bit by reducing the finance to half. There would be a start.
You know, I think Christina, for us, I think it would probably, I would lean on you to do some time, take some time and work through it, and, don't know, or, I mean,
Brian
it's
and I
hard
can-
for me to say, take it here, take it there. I'd rather not, I'd rather have some time put into it, I guess is what I'm saying, and some thought put into it, rather than saying contingency or this or that. Taking some time is important to me. So, what that means is, I don't know what our time frame is here. I'm understanding that we're of a clock at this point, but.
I think you know, if we have to do it right now, I guess I would suggest pull down contingency, because we can always swap things around if we have to, because there should be a little bit in wages under administration.
No, there isn't, because that's already been removed.
Oh,
Well, the benefits part is probably anticipated high because we plan for everybody to have family and everybody won't have family.
but we still have to account for that, I think. I mean, if we're, just to keep it even, I mean,
I thought this was no more than $40,000 a year position.
For their
Christina just said it was
Well, by the time
7,000,
you can add
Wages.
So
another.
32,000 in benefits?
including everything.
Well, you have FICA, retirement,
Yeah,
life,
it's-
dental, and insurance, and
It might be a little high, but be
it's
it
gonna
based on
range
the
anywhere from
insurance.
57 to 72, depending on the insurance that they take.
It's typically 30 to 40%.
What would be the base rate though?
It was mentioned $20.
Give or take, 40? So yeah, that's 40%.
Can we vote on the budget so we can get out of here?
At this point, is that where we're at now, Brian?
Yeah, somebody wanted to call the question on the ordinance as amended.
As amended, though,
As amended? Okay.
right? I'll call the question as amended.
Okay, roll call.
Clark? Aye. David?
Aye.
Fish?
well, as you all know, I've been against this budget the whole time frame. I'm not any happier with it at the moment than I have been in the past, but I don't know how the votes are gonna go. And as Tim said, let's vote on it and get out of here, so I'm going to, against my better judgment, vote yes.
Well, Ryan got his job, so he should be happy about that. I'll vote nay.
I don't care about Ryan.
Call?
Aye.
Parliament?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we need next on the agenda is an executive session?
Yes, under 125.2, paragraph 6, contract or negotiations.
Motion to move into executive?
Motion second to move into executive session. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries.